Welcome, everybody, to the College Football Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The College Football Weekly Pick'em Show is brought to you, of course, by MyBookie.ag, where I lost a little bit of money tonight. But I almost won a lot, but in the end I lost, so it sucked. But MyBookie.ag is great. If you bet the game tonight through MyBookie.ag, you'll have your money within 48 hours. I'm the host for the College Football Weekly Pick'em Show, which is a national championship game post-game show this year, or tonight. Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my co-host. First up, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
Doing great. It was a great championship game. Bill, being an Alabama alum right now, is smoking a big cigar and drinking some scotch. And my question to you is how do you almost lose and almost not lose at MyBookie AG? I mean, either you're losing or you're not losing.
Yeah, I lost, but I almost won. My problem was this. I picked Georgia, and for some stupid reason, I picked the over. So I was excited about the overtime because the over was like 45.5. So I'm figuring Georgia wins, they score a touchdown, I make a little bit of money, but then I didn't. Also, we got the newest addition to the Grueling Truth staff here. He is our SEC beat writer. Help me welcome to the show, Mitch Davis. How you doing, Mitch?
What's up, guys? I'm doing well. What a great game that was. It was an excellent game. I, too, had Georgia, by the way, so kind of feeling a little bit of that.
Well, I'm not feeling too bad because if you'd have told me Jalen Hurts wasn't going to play, I probably wouldn't even have bet the game because I knew the Tua kid was pretty good. That brings us to the insufferable Alabama fan for this show. Former offensive lineman, played for Bear Bryant, 2 national championships, 1979, 1980. Help me welcome to the show, former Bama offensive lineman, Bill Searcy.
Hey, guys, how y'all doing tonight? Because I'm feeling great.
Well, we figured you would. And, I mean, when we watched this game, when me and Brian and you picked the game last night, I think the first half went exactly the way me and Brian thought. And I think that if Jalen Hurts doesn't come out of this game for Tua, I think this game would end up being a one-sided blowout for Georgia, Bill.
It would have. There's no doubt about it because it was headed in that direction, and it was reminiscent of, I said last night, if we can't convert on third down and we can't stop them on third down, it's going to get ugly, and that's exactly where we were headed. That's what was going on, and at the end of the first half, I think we were 0 for 4 of our last 4 possessions on third down conversions, and our defense was on the verge of being exhausted again, just like last year when they went 95 plays or whatever against Clemson. And, I mean, bringing Tua in changed the whole game, of course, and I thought it was a brave, gutsy move by Saban, even though really had nothing to lose at that point, but still. And Tua came in and showed everybody why people have been yelling his name all year.
Yeah, I mean, 14 for 24, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 bad interception. But with a guy in his first meaningful game, you kind of almost got to expect he's going to make a mistake somewhere, Bill.
Well, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, the guy did phenomenal for a kid that's never been in a big game, the national championship game. And the thing about it is, I don't know if you realize it, that Alabama was playing without 2 starting offensive linemen. In the second half, when they brought Tua in, they brought in a bunch of freshmen. The kid that caught the touchdown, the winning touchdown, was a freshman. And they had the Judy in, the receiver. They had Najee Harris in at tailback. They had the left tackle was a true freshman. So, I mean, he just went for broke. He just said, I'm putting freshmen in. We're going to either win this thing or not. So, couldn't be more pleased. And, Georgia has a great team. They played a great game. And it was a great – even if Alabama hadn't won, I wouldn't be as happy, but it would still been a great game.
Yeah, and when you look at it, my only question to Kirby Smart, who obviously is a great football coach, Brian, is they giving the ball to Nick Chubb more than they gave it to Sonny Michel or Michael. 14 carries for Michael, 98 yards. Chubb, 18 carries, 25 yards. Especially in the overtime, I think when you look at Alabama's defense and their speed up front, Chubb is more of an east-west runner when they give him the ball. Michel's or Michael's more of a north-south runner. And I just think that it was a bad idea to go away from him and to go with Chubb.
Yeah, I felt that, and I also felt like the play calling in the fourth quarter, and especially the overtime, was just very vanilla, very, let's play not to lose. And a perfect example in the overtime. I just really felt like in the overtime, I mean, you just, run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, and you get that sack on third down. Sometimes you've got to put the attack on, and they did not do that. Ultimately they got a field goal out of it, and everything kind of looked good there for a minute. But I would have liked to have seen them, do a little bit more offensively to be Supinella and just hand the ball off to Chubb. I don't think he was the right man in that situation.
Yeah, and to me, Mitch, it looked like, Lincoln Riley showed up to call plays in overtime for Georgia. It was similar where he just kind of got the old tight sphincter there and was afraid to really let it shoot.
And, I completely agree with that, actually. That was one of the things I texted one of my Georgia buddies. I was saying, what is Kirby Smart doing? Like, this guy, they had a 20-3 lead or something like that heading into halftime. And
13-0.
Just go 13-0. Yeah, that's what it was. And they just completely went away from that game plan of just run the ball, and throw it to Ridley. And they kind of just went away from. They just played to lose, like Mr. Bryan said as well. They just played to just not to lose. They played just way too conservative.
Yeah, and Bill, when I watch this and I see this sack on Alabama's first play, and they're back at like the 40, 42-yard line, something like that, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, now he's going to nickel and dime it and try to kick a field goal. But I think this is what makes Nick Saban just a little bit better than everybody else. Nick Saban's still playing to win the game. He's not playing for a tie, where I think Kirby Smart was playing it safe. Nick Saban's not afraid to take a chance.
Well, I agree what I think Mitch said a minute ago, is that they just, Kirby got really conservative and was just playing to not lose, and he wasn't playing. He was hoping that Tua, a young kid, would make some mistakes, but, Nick just kept pouring the pressure on, and they were just slinging the ball, going for broke. And Tua just did a great job on that last play, looking the safety off and coming back to the guy and just dropping it in. And it was a different offense than what we've seen for a long time, and obviously, and we just played. I mean, Nick just played to win, and I'm glad he did, because I wasn't up for watching another field goal attempt.
No, I mean, that kid, you kind of had to feel sorry for. I mean, we'll just call him Andy, because I don't know how you pronounce his last name. But he completely shanks a kick at Papa John's, whatever it is. Doesn't matter.
I
mean, he's off the hook
his
now.
Scholarship is fixing to be.
Yeah, now nobody's
going to lost that game. His scholarship was fixing to be revoked. So.
Yeah, and speaking of which, where does Jalen Hurts go from here, Schmitty?
James Madison.
James Madison.
I keep saying James Madison, and I'm going to keep saying James Madison.
Why James Madison, Schmitty?
Because James Madison is where every SEC quarterback goes when they know that their time is up.
Well, the other thing, and I think that Bill just brought it up, and we'll go to Mitch on this one since he hadn't had as much airtime as everybody else yet. But Mitch, do you think there's any chance we see a position switch where maybe Jalen Hurts becomes a running back, wide receiver, or a DB even?
I was actually talking, there was one of my Georgia friends that was in a group chat, and we were saying that Jalen Hurts kind of reminds us of a glorified running back that can pass. I can see where Alabama and Nick Saban goes to a wildcat formation with Jalen Hurts and lines him up in that wildcat where he can break you for a 20-yard run, or he can step back and throw it to Calvin Ridley or somebody like that. And so, I do see a kind of a position switch if he doesn't transfer to, James Madison and Ole Miss or somebody like that. I do see a position switch kind of coming in the future where he could play a wildcat. We saw that with Randall Cobb at University of Kentucky several years back, where a guy that could throw the ball and he could catch it and run it and everything, could play a lot better in the wildcat formation. So I think that he could be a wildcat style running back / quarterback going on.
So do you think there's no doubt off of this performance, Bill, that there's a quarterback change in Tuscaloosa next year?
I think so, unless something crazy happens during spring training. But I think you put Jalen Hurts in a position to obviously still contribute, because I think he would be a huge contributor at another position, more so than he has been at quarterback for 2 years. And, you know, to put him in a wildcat or in a tailback position, we've got a lot of tailbacks, but in some kind of position, skilled position to make something happen, the guy can play. And even, you know, I was talking to somebody earlier today about his NFL prospects. He surely wouldn't have been at quarterback. It's going to be at some, as a player, some skill position, maybe even as a safety on defense. But I think you got a new quarterback at Alabama unless something really crazy happens.
Yeah, and if you look at all the NFL talent on this team, Brian, I mean, I keep seeing Roquan Smith going like pick 10 or 12. I mean, this guy might be the best player in college football. At least defensively.
I mean, there's such good talent defensively. And he's an amazing talent. But, you know, Alabama, and Georgia to an extent, even though I think Georgia is a little bit younger, but just a lot of great talent. I mean, there was a lot of really outstanding talent on that field tonight. You could see it even with, Alabama playing such a bad first half offensively, defensively. I mean, that defense kept them in the game, which is what we talked about last night was going to be the key.
Yeah, and I mean, just the linebacker play, though, and the defensive line play from both teams. And I really thought the game was being decided up until about the middle of the third quarter. And I think I texted Bill this during the game. I thought the difference in the game was Alabama could not block Georgia's defensive line, but Georgia's offensive line was handling Alabama, Bill.
Yes, you're right. They were. And once the defense, though, was able to get a little bit of rest, once we changed quarterbacks and they got their feet back under them, then they started wearing on the Georgia offensive line. But Georgia's defensive line was doing a great job. And like I said, we had a couple of kind of inexperienced guys in there, and they were bringing it. And the difference was once Jalen was out and Tua was in, because Tua will step up in a pocket, which is what he did. As opposed to Jalen. And when they were coming around the outside with Tua, he just stepped up and made a play. So, it's the momentum shifted sometime in the third quarter big time, and Georgia's defense was starting to get hung out there on the field, and they just got worn out, So we know what that's like.
All right, Mitch. So when we look at Alabama, we know of what they got coming back, and they're going to be loaded no matter what. They're probably going to be preseason number one again. Where does Georgia go from here? Is this a team that brings back enough players or has enough guys, under those guys to replace them and make another run at this?
I think it all starts with the quarterback position. And Fromm was only a freshman this year. And getting that playing experience, playing in the Rose Bowl game, winning an overtime game against an excellent Oklahoma team, and taking Alabama all the way down to overtime in the national championship game, I do see Georgia returning at least back to the SEC championship, because they are the best team in the East. Now, do I think that they go to the playoffs next year? No, because they lost too much with, Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel. That's over probably 50% of their offense. So, but I do see Georgia being a dominant team next year, probably losing a game or two, and returning back to the SEC championship at least, and if they do have a big run and they get their running back play kind of going on a little bit, then they could, get back in the playoffs. But I do see Georgia at least returning back to the playoffs in 2 to 3 years, especially when you look at Jake Fromm being a junior in his junior year, and you get the 5-star recruits coming in and you build those guys up. I do see Georgia making a return trip back to the playoffs in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Brian, somebody with Sonny Michel, Sonny Michael, whatever the hell his name is, somebody's going to pick him up probably in the second or third round, and they're going to have a Pro Bowl running back.
Oh, absolutely. Great running back. I mean, really, quite honestly, if you're an NFL team, you really got to be looking at that kid in that second and third round, and if you're looking for a running back, he's got to be higher on your list. Has to be.
I mean, to me, I don't know if I've seen anybody better than him other than maybe Barkley.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I think really Barkley and him are, a top 2 running backs going to be involved in that draft.
Yeah, so Mitch, what's your take on that and Sonny Michel going into the draft? I know you got the kid from LSU who's really good. I've seen people predict him towards the end of the first round. Where do you think Michel fits into this in the draft?
I kind of agree with an early second-round pick. He's one of those guys that, Darius guys could go before him. And Saquon Barkley, of course, is probably going to go first or second. Hopefully not to Cleveland. No knock on Cleveland, but nobody really wants to go to Cleveland. But I do see Sonny Michel kind of going to somebody like the Patriots or somebody who needs that kind of running style, who just likes to pound it out a little bit and likes to balance their offense out. Like I said, I think he would be a great fit with the Patriots under Tom Brady. I mean, you look at their running situation, and Tom Brady's a dominant one, but that could be a double-sided monster for the New England Patriots.
Well, let's face it. Anybody that ends up in New England ends up being really good anyways, right?
That's pretty much dead on.
If they're not, Belichick will make them good. All right, Bill, you're tied, won it. So I guess we're even. Last year I picked Clemson, and I got it right. This year you got Bama, you got it right.
Yeah.
But I know Mitch has got to get back to work. I don't know. I think he's a bouncer at a strip club, right, Mitch?
Totally not. I actually work at a warehouse, Williams-Sonoma.
That sounds about like the same thing.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, I want to thank everybody that listened to us this year. Any final words, Brian?
Already looking for next year's college football season. But again, and we've talked about this before, we're never going to get a true national championship until we expand this playoffs. We've got to get this thing to an 8. I would love to see a 16-team playoff, but we've got to expand these playoffs. I still believe that there's a team in Florida that certainly deserve the opportunity to be playing for a national championship.
Yeah, could you imagine what the ratings would be if Cinderella Central Florida was to play Alabama next Monday night?
Yeah,
Don't even start.
Why? Why, Bill? Why would we not even start?
Oh, because I don't even want to hear about it right now.
Why is that?
Because it ain't going to happen.
I know it ain't going to happen, but it should.
I don't know.
Okay. Bill?
I'll agree with you. I'm not going to even. I'm in such a good mood. I'm not going to argue with you.
Hey, this is the thing, Bill. We're not taking anything away from Alabama because that's the way the system's set up. Our problem is the system is so skewed in one direction that it's not fair. I mean, it's kind of like our political system set up now. You got the rich people and you got everybody else. And everybody else doesn't get a fair chance. That's how you end up with Donald Trump running against Hillary Clinton.
I know. Look, I told you this last night. I agree with you. It needs to be different, set up different than what it is. And I really do, and this is all honesty, I feel lucky as being an Alabama fan. I feel very lucky that Alabama even got to get in the thing, okay? Because there was a case to be made, no doubt, for them not to be in the Final Four. And so I felt lucky they got in the Final Four and feel extremely lucky that they got to win tonight. But it's not the best. It's surely not the best of all worlds. There's a better way to do the playoff system. I just don't know if it'll ever happen.
No, it probably won't. Mitch, final thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to the spring football, in the SEC. There's a lot of question marks. Looking forward to what Jeremy Pruitt can do at Tennessee. Looking forward to what, Georgia does after this wonderful season. Just really looking forward to what, is going on in the SEC. And I'm also going to put a plug in for SEC basketball. SEC basketball is on the rise this year. A lot of teams, I saw Joe Lunardi's latest bracket had 8 SEC teams in the tournament. So looking forward to diving in with the grueling truth here, diving into the SEC and bringing the best coverage that I can bring for this radio.
Yeah, and you can go to thegruelingtruth.net and find everything Mitch does, including his SEC Power Rankings, which were out today. Also, you got the Mitch Davis Show every, Thursday?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every Thursday, and unless we get a couple interviews. We actually got Jimmy Dice coming on the show sometime next week.
All right, and me and Brian tomorrow night will be on the NFL Pick'em Show with former Denver Bronco offensive lineman Mark Cooper and a special guest, comedian Joey White, who's been seen on Comedy Central. So that should be interesting because the funniest person I know is Brian, and if Joey tries to go toe-to-toe with Brian, Joey's going to be in trouble.
He will lose. That's all I can say.
See, right there. Wasn't that hilarious? All right, guys.
That was.
Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show all year. Hopefully, we'll all be back next year. I want to also tell everybody we have a special Legends of Boxing show. Thursday at noon, we'll have former World Heavyweight Champion Larry Holmes on the show, so make sure you check that out. And check out all the shows on thegruelingtruth.net. You can go to iTunes and actually download the Grueling Truth app, and you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Mitch Davis, Bill Searcy, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.